There are very few things more daunting than taking a step with the first draft pick. The first pick in a draft will be a superstar, a wonder who will help his team win games and championships. Safe to say, this needs to be a person of great potential. But here's the thing, this doesn't ensure it will be a successful run. In today's video, let's look at the first picks who turned out to be big failures. First up, we have Andrea Bargnani at number 10. It's not an honor to make this video, but what can you do? Andrea Bargnani was drafted first overall in 2006, and to be honest, this dynamic power forward was seen as having a lot of promise by the Toronto Raptors. But as you might have imagined, the 7-foot Italian really never lived up to expectations. While Bargnani had a couple of strong seasons, his overall career was kind of underwhelming to say the least. And then, in 550 games over 10 NBA seasons, Bargnani averaged 43.9 field goal percentage, 14.3 points, 1.2 assists, and 4.6 rebounds per game. Next, at number 9, let's look at Pervis Ellison. The Sacramento Kings picked Pervis Ellison as the first overall choice in the 1989 NBA draft. He was with the Kings for just one season before being moved to the Washington Bullets, where he played 4 seasons until being released. Due to injuries, which would dog him throughout much of his career, Ellison played sparingly during his only season. So from the start, it didn't look great for never nervous Pervis. He later spent 5 years with the Boston Celtics before finishing his career with the Seattle Supersonics. Ellison averaged 9.7 points, 6.7 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 1.6 blocks per game as the first overall choice. While Pervis Ellison's NBA career never quite matched his incredible level of success at the college level, he never gave up on the game. And it's honestly good that he didn't, because he's worked with many talented young ones through the years, including his own children. So even if his career didn't go where it might have wanted to, he decided to give back to the game that gave him so much. Moving on, at number 8 we have Michael Olowokandi, the 7-foot center who averaged 22.2 points, 11.2 rebounds, and 2.9 blocks per game in his final year in college, is yet another superstar that didn't meet the high expectations. The Los Angeles Clippers had a good argument for selecting him as the first overall choice in the 1998 NBA draft, that's for sure. But sadly, the Nigerian was a huge letdown, as he couldn't even lead the Clippers to the playoffs. And looking at his numbers, his 6.8 rebounds per game and 8.3 points per game was clearly not up to par. This was just one of the Clippers' many draft miscalculations. When we look at it from a professional perspective, the Candyman looked to be totally lost on the floor. He could block shots, but that was about it. In other areas, he was mediocre at best. Olowokandi was out of the NBA at the age of 31, after being selected ahead of future Hall of Famers such as Dirk Nowitzki, Vince Carter, and Paul Pierce, to mention a few. Next up, at number 7, let's look at Greg Oden. Greg Oden was selected first overall in the 2007 NBA draft by the Portland Trail Blazers.
Aldridge from 20 feet, short, rebound, Batum kicks to Oden. Oden puts it on the floor and scores over Garnett,
who regarded him as a center with a lot of potential. Unfortunately, knee issues prevented Oden from reaching even half of his potential, as he missed 4 seasons while only playing 3. Oden was one of the NBA's worst first-round choices, but it wasn't entirely his fault. He was simply unfortunate. The 2-time National High School Player of the Year, blessed with a high hoops IQ, savvy footwork, and a soft touch, was a once-in-a-generation talent, but he played just about 1 season and was plagued with controversial headlines. Coming up next, at number 6, let's look at Kwame Brown. So, coming to our next player who didn't deliver, Kwame Brown played for 7 teams throughout a 12-year career. This included the Washington Wizards, who picked him with the first overall choice in the 2001 draft. He was expected to strengthen his offensive game, and that's not all. He was also tasked with boosting up the defense. Nothing like this happened though. Brown never broke out and spent his whole career as a below-average underachiever. What's more, some even say that Brown was psychologically unprepared, which is why he couldn't handle the pressure of being a franchise's first selection. His greatest season came in 2003-2004 when he averaged 10.9 points and 7.4 rebounds per game. Kwame Brown entered the 2001 draft as a 6'11", 270-pound center surrounded by buzz. The man could score, rebound, and block shots with authority. He wasn't as mature as people wanted and ended up playing for 5 different clubs in his now 10-year career. Indeed, he has never lived up to his promise, and his figures are simply unacceptable given his stature. It should also be noted that he was selected ahead of future All-Stars such as Paul Gasol and Joe Johnson, not to mention Jason Richardson and Gilbert Arenas. Coming up at number 5, we have Kent Benson. The Milwaukee Bucks possessed the first overall choice in the 1977 draft and chose Kent Benson over Marquez Johnson, Jack Sikma, and Walter Davis. This would end up costing them big time. The center was with the Bucks for 3 seasons, averaging 9.8 points per game, 5.9 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and 1.0 blocks per game. Benson then spent 7 seasons with the Detroit Pistons, where he had a couple of outstanding years, but never lived up to expectations. Moving on, at number 4, there's Anthony Bennett Bennett and his disappointing career. Even though there wasn't a very clear choice in the 2013 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks picked Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Denver Nuggets selected Rudy Gobert, while the Cleveland Cavaliers chose Anthony Bennett, an outstanding power forward who also played defense. But of course, he disappointed everyone in the NBA. He only played 4 seasons and averaged 4.4 points per game, 0.5 assists per game, 3.1 rebounds, 0.2 blocks, and a field goal percentage of 39.2%. There could be many reasons for this failure, one being that his skill set might have just expired. There are some other rumors that he had undiagnosed health issues that prevented him from losing weight and performing his best. Don't go anywhere, because we're going to reveal our picks for the top 3 worst draft picks in NBA history. Up next, at number 3, let's look at Mark Workman. The Milwaukee Hawks picked power player Mark Workman as the first choice in the 1952 NBA draft. This was one of the largest draft flops in basketball history, if not in sports in general. It's no surprise that Mark Workman only lasted 2 NBA seasons, averaging 4.9 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 0.6 assists per game. Workman also had a dismal field goal percentage of 33%. Yet, considering how a Hall of Famer in Clyde Lovellett was drafted behind him, we can't help but wonder what made Workman stand out to be drafted first overall. Next, at number 2, we have Dick Ricketts. Dick Ricketts, the first choice in the 1955 NBA draft, showed just how much he wasn't made for the big leagues. After playing just 3 seasons in the league and severely underachieving, he pursued his ambition of playing baseball. He ended up pitching 1 season with the St. Louis Cardinals, which didn't go so well, to put it mildly. Back to basketball, Dick Ricketts struggled in his brief career, averaging 9.3 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 2.1 assists per game. So we're definitely not exaggerating how the St. Louis Hawks made one of the worst draft choices in history. Instead, they should have picked up Jack Twyman, who actually stuck with basketball and was pretty darn good at it. The sweet shooting small forward actually became a 6-time All-Star and was included into the Hall of Fame in 1983. The Hawks probably cried over that one, to be honest. Finally, at number 1, let's look at LaRue Martin. LaRue Martin was without a doubt one of the worst first-round choices in NBA history, if not the worst of all time. Martin was drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers in 1972, but by 1977, he had no NBA team. This demonstrates how absolutely terrible he was, since 4.6 rebounds per game, 0.5 blocks, and 5.3 points per game are just not enough for someone with his height. Many believed he was going to be a top NBA center at 6'11", but despite being selected ahead of future players such as Bob Mikado and Julius Erving, Martin never got used to the professional level and left the NBA after 4 seasons. Without Erving, the Nets, Spurs, Pacers, and Nuggets may still be playing in the Bush Leagues, but talking about LaRue, at just 26, he left the NBA and left his legacy in shambles. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about our choices for the worst first picks, and do you think that we've missed any? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. We'll see you in the next one, and thanks for watching.